Hi, welcome to the channel, everybody. Before I get into today's video, I do want to give a special shout out to Player's Choice Gridiron, a subset of Player's Choice, a pretty popular podcast on TikTok. They just hit 100,000 followers on TikTok, which is a great accomplishment. They usually talk about NBA, basketball, things like that, but they do have a subset called Player's Choice Gridiron that they're trying to build up. They just hit, I think, about 8,000 followers on TikTok, and they asked me to come on and be a part of their podcast episode as a guest. Go check it out. We talk about the Russell Wilson trade. You get it more in depth on how a Seahawks fan feels about it. We do a draft on a perfect offense. We talk about my top 5 quarterbacks of all time and wide receivers. And we get into a heated debate about whether Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow is the better quarterback. So go check it out. I will put a link into the bio to their channel. The live stream is up and they post plenty of clips on TikTok. And go give some support, go show them some love, because I would love to go back onto that podcast and do more episodes like that. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, because even though with all the midst of the Khalil Mack trade, the Russell Wilson trade, the Carson Wentz trade, those three, I already made a video on the Russell Wilson trade. I didn't feel like I needed to make a Carson Wentz one. I might, honestly, because it's a really intriguing move for the Washington Commanders. But I feel that the Khalil Mack trade is pretty obvious on who it hurts the most. The Bears were not going to pay a guy that was $20 million in cap space. He had a torn ACL. I understand it doesn't look great for the Bears after they gave up so much to the Raiders. And now that trade is something that I do want to take a look at and see who really lost that trade, because at the time it seemed like a wash for the Raiders to lose that trade and give up Khalil Mack, who was probably the best edge defender in the league at that time, barring Aaron Donald, but he's not really on the edge. He's more of an interior guy. But I want to look at the Raiders today, because the Raiders seem to be the guys that are having the biggest L's in this offseason, and they're not even making any moves. And let me explain why. And also, real quick, before I really get into this, Deshaun Watson has officially come out, and the court ruling says that he is not getting charged with anything. Now, it does not mean that he is guilty, does not mean that he is innocent. It is just kind of moving on now, and I'm not going to put an opinion out there on it, but I'm not going to just say that he is outright innocent in any of those cases. But that is something to look out for if you are a fan of the NFL. I don't want to comment on whether Deshaun Watson is a great person or not, because that is to be determined, to be honest, and I don't know the guy personally, and I don't know what the case truly says, but for right now, NFL teams can officially trade for him, and I don't know if the NFL is going to suspend him for anything. That's all in the air. I do just want to quote that because that happened about a couple hours ago, and I don't want to just blow that off and just act like it didn't happen. I might make a video if he does end up getting traded, but I'm going to say real quick, he does go to the Panthers. That's my prediction. Just get that out of the way. But let's get into why the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that made the playoffs this year, went against the buzzsaw that was the Bengals, why they should rebuild. And it's an interesting situation for them, because it's not that they don't have a lot of talent on the roster. I mean, they made the playoffs. They were able to squeak in. They have a lot of guys to like on that roster. They just brought in a new head coach. With all the turmoil that has happened with the Las Vegas Raiders, it's not a surprise that they are trying to retool this offseason and try to rebuild a culture in a situation that has brought a lot of players from that team to negative light. And the problem I'm having with the Raiders is not that they don't have talent on there. It's the rest of the teams in the division. I mean, you have the Chargers, who just got Khalil Mack, as I previously mentioned. They are super talented, and they're going to definitely be aggressive in trying to rebuild this defense. And if they got a guy like Jordan Davis to plug up the middle and fix that run defense, there's no telling how far they can go. I honestly might pick them to win the division right now. The Broncos just got a quarterback, and they are super talented around Russell Wilson. And the Chiefs are the buzzsaw that they are. They still have Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and I would not be surprised. I would look out for him. I would not be surprised if they made a move in a big-time splash. Go for an Odell Beckham. Go for somebody to make it headlines, because I'm not surprised that the Chargers made this move. I'm sure it's been going on for weeks, but it could be a response to Russell Wilson being traded to the Broncos. And when this draft comes around, don't be surprised if a lot of AFC West teams start to trade up to build an offensive line, to go get big-time players that can have big bust or big boom potential. I would not be surprised if they try to make big-time moves to win now. I mean, the formula is set right now. It's a copycat league. We saw it with the LA Rams. If you go all in on 1 year, who cares about the next 5 years after that? You have won a Super Bowl. And more times than not, a lot of teams back in the 2000s, 90s, they would win a Super Bowl and try to get back there every time instead of going all in on 1 year and then deal with the repercussions after the fact. And nowadays, it's just all about that. If you can get to the one, deal with the consequences later and try to reload in a couple years from then. There's not a lot of dynasties going on right now. The Chiefs are even trying to do that, and they haven't been able to achieve 2 Super Bowl wins. It's just very interesting to see right now. But the problem with the Raiders, and the problem I have with them is, I mean, the Raiders are probably hit their peak for that roster. And I don't know if they can add enough talent onto that roster that is significant enough, unless they got a guy like Devontae Adams or someone, but he got franchise tagged. I guess they could get Amari Cooper, but I don't think he moves the needle enough for them to even get third place in that division, barring an injury. I mean, they would have to pray for injuries and play to the max that they can with a new head coach that is very unproven and is in an offense that really doesn't fit Derek Carr's skill sets at the best. I think Josh Jacobs has all the potential to have a really, really good year, and I would not be surprised if Hunter Renfrow probably hit an all-pro with a Josh McDaniels offense. But I did not love the hire when it happened. I do have a video on my computer kind of explaining why I'm not a big fan of Josh McDaniels. It's a coaching hire. It's kind of a rainy day video if I don't have any content, but I do not believe that this team is really set up to win now. So I do think they should go into a rebuild, or they're going to be stuck in mediocrity, and that's just not what the Raiders want to do. I know they want to go and be a dominant team and a dominant force in the AFC, and as much as Derek Carr is a great quarterback, he's not in that upper echelon of quarterbacks in the AFC, which the entire conference is a buzzsaw right now. That's just the truth of it. You can't go around that. And I think if you trade Derek Carr right now, I know this is a hurtful thing to say, and they've been talking about this for years, specifically with John Gruden, but Derek Carr's value has never been higher, and you have him under contract till this year. And then the year after that, his estimated value based off of SpotTrack.com, $36.2 million from his $19.8 million right now. Would you trade that and potentially get a bunch of assets back and move on into the future and try to build a young team that hopefully when the Broncos bust out or the Chargers flame out potentially or the Chiefs age out with their massive contracts and Justin Herbert potentially gets a massive contract and Russell Wilson has a massive contract, you could go young and build a really good roster around a young quarterback maybe next year or maybe the year after that. I'm not 100% sure. There could be a guy like Quinn Ewers in 2023. I don't know yet, but I don't believe that this Raiders talent can even get them into a wild card position, because there's a lot of problems with this roster, not only with the wide receiver room. Their secondary is atrocious. Their linebackers are non-existent. They have a pretty solid pass rush, but we saw them get exposed against the Bengals. Now they played them pretty tough, and I do think they had a lot of momentum going for them. I mean, they beat the Chargers. I think they had a fantastic year, but it is being said that, I mean, you have one possession wins on a consistent basis towards the end of the year. Trust me, coming from a Seahawks fan, I completely understand what that's like and the stress that brings, but it does not equate to long-term success ever. I mean, the Seahawks finally blew it up, and it was because Russell Wilson is a magician. Guess what? He's in your conference. He's able to win those one possession type of games, and I just don't think the Raiders are able to equivalate that into the next year, specifically with all of them banding together. I just don't see it happening, and they're like one injury away from really just their talent being depleted. I mean, say Derek Carr gets injured, Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Foster Moreau. I'm not one to like promote them getting injured. I don't, but it's gonna happen. Like, there's something that always happens to a team like this. Injuries always happen, and they can't afford it. And they would have to play perfect. Josh McDaniels would have to be a Coach of the Year candidate for them to actually possess a big-time win and I don't even see them going far. So it's either you pick mediocrity, a first-round exit in the wild card as a best-case scenario, or you trade Derek Carr to, say, the Colts, get a bunch of value. I mean, I would not be surprised if Derek Carr got a ton of value back. I mean, Deshaun Watson's on the market now, but Derek Carr is a much safer, consistent option and is most likely probably a better person. And you could get Josh Jacobs potentially some value out there. I think you could keep him, honestly, because I think he would thrive really well in a Josh McDaniels offense. And there's still some pieces on this roster that you could keep around, some young guys. There's some really expensive guys on the defensive line that you can move around. Their linebackers are about $30 million total in cap. I mean, I have it pulled up here. You have Marcus Mariota still on the roster. Kenyon Drake is still on the roster, who's relatively expensive. You have to rebuild this entire wide receiver room. As much as Hunter Renfrow is really good, I bet he could be elite under a right set where, I mean, you don't have another X receiver around him to take the pressure off. After that, Colton Miller's going to get more expensive. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue, he's super expensive. Clayton Farrell has flamed out as not a great pass rusher. Corey Littleton's super expensive. I mean, there's so many things. I'm going through the salary cap right now, and that's a big motivator for a lot of teams that know. I understand the big moves like Khalil Mack. A lot of people want to say the Bears lost that trade. I mean, it's moving off cap. That's what a lot of teams do around these times. I mean, Julio Jones got moved off of because of cap reasons. It happens all the time. Von Miller was expensive. Wouldn't even be surprised if Von Miller went back to the Broncos, and then your division gets more and more stacked. This is one of the rare times where I've ever seen a team that went into the playoffs and got into a prime position to move into the next year, and the other teams in their division just outmatched them. I could see them going 1-5 in their divisional games next year, and it's not their fault. They are doing the best that they can with the roster that they're given. These teams are just set up to win more. I mean, you have Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. I love Derek Carr, but he will not stand a chance against those guys, specifically with the roster around those guys versus what Derek Carr has for him. And I'm not a big fan of the Josh McDaniels hire in the first place. And the Raiders, I hate to say it, if you're a Raiders fan and you're typing in the comments right now, I hate to say it, man. Y'all are the Raiders. Y'all are doomed for this to happen. And I think a rebuild is y'all's best option right now because of the value your players have at most likely their peaks. And if you're at this point of the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I know I just went in on the Raiders, but I truly do think a rebuild is the best option for this team. And thank you so much for watching. Go check out Player's Choice Gridiron. Go show them some love, and go show this channel some love, because guess what? We are going for 1,000 subscribers by the end of this summer. And thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.